President Trump teased that Musk will not be going too far. He posted, "This will be his last day, but not really, because he will always be with us, helping all the way. Elon is terrific." During Musk's 130 days with Doge, the group reportedly slashed $175 billion in government spending. That's nearly $1,100 for each U.S. taxpayer. A few examples of government waste that Musk and Doge rooted out: a grant for alpaca farming in Peru, a contract with a former Taliban member, a grant for gender equity in Mexico's workplaces, and marketing for pineapple juice in Bahrain. Miranda Devine reflected on these accomplishments.
He came up against the reality of a very difficult government bureaucracy and a deep state that's still there fighting back. But he achieved a lot. It was extremely popular to cut waste and fraud, and I think his policies and his work will live on.
Senior White House correspondent Peter Doocy has more on this for us. Hey, Peter.
Thanks, Jackie. And we are told that Elon will soon be gone, but not forgotten, because Doge workers are now working with or working for every cabinet secretary.
They'll continue to work with the respective Doge employees who have onboarded as political appointees at all of these agencies. So surely the mission of Doge will continue, and many Doge employees are now political appointees and employees of our government. And to the best of my knowledge, all of them intend to stay and continue this important work.
And this is what's going to happen, according to House Speaker Mike Johnson. The House is eager and ready to act on Doge's findings so we can deliver even more cuts to big government that President Trump wants and the American people demand. We will do that in two ways. One, when the White House sends its rescissions package to the House, we will act quickly by passing legislation to codify the cuts. Two, the House will use the appropriations process to swiftly implement President Trump's 2026 budget. But there are Democrats in town who are watching Musk leave with glee.
Elon did incredible damage. It's still lasting today. We've got seniors that, having a hard time getting through to a social security office because of the damage Elon did. So it's good that he's gone. It was a short period of time, but a guy like him could do a lot of damage in a short period of time.
And when you hear that, that's probably as clear a signal as any that some future administrations, depending on which party the president is from, will not have White House Doge offices. Jackie?
All right, Peter Doocy for us in the North Lawn. Thanks, Peter. Republican Congressman Pat Fallon of Texas, member of the House Oversight Committee, joining us now. Congressman, thanks for being here. Appreciate your time.
Oh, thanks, Jackie. Appreciate it.
So, Congressman, where does Doge go from here with Elon Musk's departure? We know we've got this rescission package that's going to work its way through Congress, but what about the Doge caucus? Is that still even a thing?
Yes, I'm a member, and it is. We were really had a focus on the big, beautiful bill and get that passed. And as you saw, we did by all of one vote. But Doge lives on, and this is simply the beginning. This is maybe the end of the beginning, I think would be the best way to describe it. When you consider, Jackie, that we only have 100 Doge employees, at most, they've cost the American people $9 million. And in that space of time, they have found $175 billion in savings. 62 billion of it's already been itemized, and 32.5 billion has been verified. So that's an incredible return on investment. But considering the federal government spends $7.4 trillion annually, which is 7,400 billion, saving 175 billion is great and it's nice, but it's only a first step.
Politically, we've seen how the Democrats tried to respond to this effort. A lot of their cries about an unelected bureaucrat sort of rang hollow when you put that up against the story we're following with the Biden presidency and who was involved in making decisions there. But on the other hand, Elon Musk set out to save $2 trillion. It comes down to 175 billion, according to reports. There are some estimates that there might be an increased cost over time due to the lost productivity. How do you respond to that? How do you set that message straight?
Well, I think, again, this is the first step. And I do truly believe there's a trillion or $2 in savings. But it's going to take months, if not years, and we have to remain, strong, and we have to have that will to do so as well, to find those savings and implement those. As far as services rendered to the American people and whatnot. The federal government, the federal employees, there are hundreds of thousands of wonderful federal employees. The fact of the matter is, Jackie, if you can't fire folks, that doesn't breed excellence. And I think actually when you get rid of folks that aren't doing a great job, it improves performance and it'll improve services rendered to the American people.
Final question on this. Musk said recently that he doesn't plan to be quite as involved in politics moving forward. He was a big heavyweight with donations and involvement on the last campaign. Do you want to see him get involved in the midterms and in 2028?
Yeah, what he said was specifically, I believe, was he just doesn't feel a need to get involved right now.
Right.
But if he sees that need again, and I think he will, come midterms and what have you, he certainly helped President Trump get over, the hump in November. Mm-hmm. And Elon Musk is a genius, and he's a very successful, he's the most successful person, arguably, in our lifetime. And he loves this country, and I would love to see him continue to be involved in politics. He paid a heavy price, as you just mentioned.
He sure did, and the president has a lot of gratitude for him, so we'll hear from them later. Meantime, another topic. Senate Republicans have set this hearing on the alleged cover-up of former President Biden's mental decline while he was in office. This is going to be the first full congressional committee hearing on this subject. Republican Senator Eric Schmidt, who will help lead that hearing, said it's time to expose how a cadre of Biden aides and family members were the de facto commander-in-chief while President Biden was sidelined. As lawmakers gather witnesses for that hearing, the White House is making it clear that it wants to hear from former First Lady Jill Biden. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt with this.
The former First Lady should certainly speak up about what she saw in regards to her husband and when she saw it and what she knew, because I think anybody looking again at the videos and photo evidence of Joe Biden with your own eyes and a little bit of common sense can see this was a clear cover-up. She's still lying to the American people. She still thinks the American public are so stupid that they're going to believe her lies. And frankly, it's insulting, and she needs to answer for it.
Flashback to this, where the First Lady refused to answer any questions about her husband.
Dr. Biden, what's the president up to here in California? We haven't really heard from him since the convention. Dr. Biden, what's the president up to here in California? How is he spending his time here? Welcome to California. Out of the roadway. Move now. Dr. Biden, we haven't really heard from the president. How's he doing?
Cross the road. That way. That way.
The House Oversight Committee, which you're a member of, is doing its own investigation into Biden's decline. 4 former Biden aides and the former White House doctor now facing possible subpoenas after they failed to comply with that deadline to schedule transcribed interviews. Do you, Congressman, believe that this investigation should reach back further than the time period that we are discussing? Because you recall, I mean, it wasn't just the last 100 days where, there were a lot of EOs signed and legislation signed, but there was a very highly managed presidency and even candidacy dating back to the basement campaign. Do you think that this needs to reach further back in time?
Jackie, undoubtedly, all 4 years of the Biden administration, because this is the largest cover-up in human history. The fact, and I had suspected this was going to happen if if Kamala Harris lost, and she did, fortunately, that, at the end of the day, Joe Biden was not cognitively sound. And that's a fact. We all saw it, and they tried to lie to us and say, no, he's fine. And then the debate performance was the coup de grace. We can see with our own eyes and own ears. And by the way, the good Lord blessed us all with trillions of brain cells. And he was put in a bubble and protected by his top aides and also his cabinet members. I mean, Buttigieg, Yellen, Milley, Garland, they're all complicit. And it's time finally to hold them to account.
Very quickly, because we're out of time, Democrats were really screaming about the last oversight investigation into the Bidens. Why is it that you think they're not reacting that way this time?
Because they got caught with their hand in the cookie jar. And a lot of our colleagues in the House and Senate were also complicit. That's why.
Okay. Congressman Pat Fallon, thank you very much for being here. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Jackie. God bless.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.